The Shooting Range. In this episode, pages of history left in a Mustang, returned in a Focke-Wulf. Challenge, pushing the boundaries with auxiliary guns. And Metal Beasts, the versatile freedom fighter. Cheap and simple does the job. That's the best description of today's metal beast that became one of the most widespread combat aircraft in the world. Please welcome the top multi-role fighter, the F-5A Freedom Fighter, with a battle rating of 10.7 in the Chinese tech tree. The new replacements for the outdated Sabres and Thunderjets, the F-100 series, turned out to be too expensive for many of the US allies. A simpler, cheaper version was needed for export, one that could engage both air and ground targets. Northrop Company won the competition with its F-5 light fighter project. This machine's two turbojet engines are equipped with afterburners. The central part of the fuselage houses self-sealing fuel tanks, while the nose carries two 20mm cannons with a total of 560 rounds of ammo. Its wide choice of suspended armament may include bombs with calibers between 200 and 2,000 pounds, rockets, and, of course, air-to-air missiles and air-to-surface missiles. Thanks to its moderate size and relatively small mass, almost 50% of the famous Phantom size and around 30% of its weight, the F-5 can pose a great threat to an enemy. Hitting such a target flying supersonic is a tough task already, and the Freedom Fighter has outstanding maneuverability and great integrity, which means you can make sharp turns without any concern about losing your wings. The F-5 can dodge machine guns and missiles for a long time, and then deliver a great punch of its own. The fixed guns in the nose have great ballistics, convenient placement, and more ammo than most competitors. And if you want to play tag, the wings can also carry two Sidewinder missiles, Modification P. The plane comes with a number of flaws as well. It has no radar, no ballistic computer, no radar warning, flares or chaff. Basically, nothing to help a pilot in a top-tier dogfight, which means you'll have to rotate your neck 360 degrees if you want to spot an attack on your F-5. Think of an owl. On the plus side, this lightweight fighter can take on a surprising amount of suspended armament. Still, with no auxiliary systems on board, you need to calculate the trajectories for your rockets and bombs on your own. It's hardly possible to achieve a high accuracy in battle with top anti-aircraft vehicles. To make up for it, this plane can carry air-to-surface guided missiles, the good old AGM-12B bullpup. You might expect a single one or two, but here we have a whole 4 of them. Now that's some good compensation, enough to change the tide of a battle. Finally, we can't but mention another versatile set of suspended armament. The F-5 can carry a whole range of ordnance at once. A 1,000-pound bomb, 38 rockets, 2 air-to-air and 2 air-to-surface missiles. And of course, the cannons aren't going anywhere. It's hard to imagine a battle that would need all of that. No other plane is capable of carrying so much. In 1942, soon after turning 18 years old, a guy named Bruce Carr enlisted in the US Air Force. Despite being only 18 years old, he was no Johnny Raw, for he had an amateur pilot license. The Army needed such people badly, obviously, so he was quickly promoted to a flight officer, first trying his hand at piloting a P-40, and soon even the newest P-51 Mustang. In early 1944, Lieutenant Carr was deployed to Europe, quickly proving his exceptional piloting skills by scoring his first credit with a few downed Luftwaffe planes during Normandy landings. November, however, brought disaster. The young lieutenant was doing another strafing mission in the skies over occupied Czechoslovakia and got shot down. The parachute barely had time to open and slow his fall down. Carr found himself alone in a forest in enemy territory, with possibly thousands of German troops around him. Should he have surrendered? Being taken prisoner meant getting at least some food, and according to Carr, it only occurred to his weary mind on the third day when the cold and the hunger became unbearable. But what place should he choose to surrender? The best available option was a German airfield that could be heard from afar. It's an enemy one, all right, but at least it had pilots, somewhat kindred spirits. Still, Carr only made it to the airfield by dusk, and trying to approach the perimeter was dangerous, since the guards could have just shot him on sight. It had to wait till morning. And then Carr noticed a few fighters in the far corner of the airfield, right next to the forest. He ran for them, climbed into the cockpit, and started checking out controls. Damn, everything's metric, not a single English word in sight. Hell, how do you even fly this thing? Anyway, Bruce Carr spent the whole night in the Focke-Wulf studying the controls, trying to guess what they did. And the most amazing thing was that no one checked out the plane. Neither a guard nor a mechanic, not even a pilot. Lieutenant Carr had a fantastic amount of luck stored for him that day. It didn't even end at the miraculous discovery. The plane turned out to be fully fueled. On top of that, it was the only Luftwaffe fighter that could be started by a single person. You see, the 109s and the later Focke-Wulf D series had inline engines that needed a mechanic or a special machine to start. The only engine with a self-sufficient electric starter was the BMW 801 back then. Bruce Carr had managed to steal into the cockpit of a plane that needed just one. So, with the first light, the lieutenant started the engine, gained enough speed on the runway, and simply flew home. No anti-aircraft guns firing at him, not even an alarm going off at the command post. Once he made it back to friendly lines and belly landed, he had to swear in English long enough to make everyone believe that he was actually the very Bruce Carr that everyone had thought for the past 4 days dead by that time. Maybe that's when some German pilot on some German airfield finally approached his mechanic and asked, "Hey, where's my plane?" Some MBTs have an additional 20mm autocannon on top of their main gun. It's often useful in fighting off enemy aircraft or damaging tracks and guns. But what's the limit of its usefulness? That is what we're going to check today. We'll try to destroy as many enemy as we can with an autocannon. In this challenge, we'll be driving a French MBT, the AMX-30, modified 1972. Its coaxial autocannon penetrates up to 57mm of armor, while its BR is only 7.7. We'll take some ammo for the main gun too, since some enemy can't be damaged with the 20mm cannon, and we'd like to avoid seeing the hangar screen prematurely. As could be expected, our first attempts weren't overly successful. Either the army on the enemy is too thick, or we don't finish them quickly enough. Well, at least we scored an SPAAG. Looks like we have to be extra cautious. Try to flank the enemy this time. Another battle. This time, it's the Ardennes. Let's go around the town. In a few minutes we'll stumble upon an ASU-57. It's too easy, of course, but a frag is a frag. Now that it's done, let's look around some more. Here's an American M56 tank destroyer. Time for target practice. One more frag scored. The battle is almost over, and we find a British Comet. Way out of rank, soldier. Driving that here is a crime punishable by a round to the side. Yep. Now this British tanker is sent to the hangar looking for a more suitable machine. 3 frags aren't bad, but we could do better. Next battle, this time on the Hurtgen Forest map, looking for a position covered by rocks and landscape close to the main attack direction. After a short wait, a Swedish light tank drives right into our sights. Fire! Autocannon 1, Swedish tank 0. Looking around, we notice a German Ru-251 tank right behind us. In a couple of minutes, another good target springs into view, a Swedish IFV. Driving around, we encounter an SPAA and increase our score to 4, with a couple of rounds to its battle compartment. In mere seconds, we spot a light tank exposing its side to us. Now 5 frags is a better result this time around. But the thing is, all our frags were light tanks, IFVs and SPAAGs. What we're looking for is a heavier target. So let's hunt some more. Japan map. Wasting no time, we dash over to the enemy side of the map and take post. The first target we spot is a British IFV trying to capture the point, and right after, we see a Vickers expose its side. The first MBT on our list. A while later, another Vickers encounter. Firing at it with the autocannon didn't destroy it, since the angle was too much, so we had to finish it with our main gun. Going ahead, we spot another Brit, this time a whole chieftain. Second MBT frag. We didn't even have time to properly celebrate that occasion before we saw another Vickers rushing at us. Here's a volley to your side, monsieur. That's 3 MBTs today. Ha! Challenge completed. What's your experience with auxiliary weapons? Share a story in the comments if you have one. Meanwhile, we'll answer some of your questions. The first question was sent by a player called Waffle. How do you fire a 37mm cannon separate from a 20mm cannon on a plane? Hi Waffle. To set up key binds for separate control over your weapons, you need to go to Controls, Aircraft, Weaponry, and find small caliber guns, large caliber guns, and additional guns. MD Beeman writes, why are the gunners on bombers so bad? Hi there. Well, the reason is simple. Make it depend more on the pilot's skill. If shooting didn't depend on you, and the bots were so accurate, they could destroy anyone in the range of the turrets. It would make the game too boring. Wouldn't you agree? Another question comes from Madcat789. Why don't jet planes have cannons over 30mm? I'm sure they could handle the weight with their modern engines. Hi there, Madcat. It's less about the weight and more about the high speeds and missiles. If you want to hit an enemy where both of you are flying at transonic speeds, rate of fire matters most of all. And the rate of fire on modern 20mm guns is so high, it can sometimes lead you to an unstart in the engine. Can you imagine what would happen with a cannon twice the caliber? Moreover, fighters started carrying air-to-air missiles as early as 60 years prior, and their further development reduced the need for bigger autocannons each year. Elijah Bryant asks, could you please have a tutorial on how to use rockets? Hello, Elijah. There are so many rockets and missiles in the game. Air-to-air, air-to-surface, ATGMs, unguided ones, anti-aircraft ones. We've covered almost all of them by now. We're sure you can find a tutorial if you search the channel. And the last comment for today was written by Dino Ornib. What's the most effective way playing with the Italian P-40? Hi there. The P-40 has some good armor, and it becomes invincible to some tanks if you employ proper angling. Otherwise, it's a classic medium tank. If you're lucky to flank your enemy, APC-BC rounds are the best, but if you're meeting your enemy head-on, they need some heat rounds. Well, once again, that's it for today. You've been watching The Shooting Range by Gaijin Entertainment, and the next episode will premiere the following Sunday at 4 p.m. GMT or noon Eastern Time. Don't forget clock changes in your country. Some already have. Subscribe and click the bell if you don't want to miss our next videos. Don't forget to leave a like, because you do. Share your thoughts and comments, and yeah, I'll see you next week.